Can anyone now double their frame rate for free in Star Citizen? We are looking at Lossless Scaling's frame generation technology. In the past, we've looked at AMD's own version of this, the fluid motion frames, but obviously you need an AMD card for that. 6000 series are now supported alongside 7000 series, and it kind of worked okay. You insert the frames, but because Star Citizen's base frame rate is not stable, it doesn't really work that well. There's artifacting and yeah, input lag issues. There's reasons why you probably wouldn't want to use it. Nvidia have obviously got their own version, which is DLSS 3, and that works well in supported games. But now we've got an option that anybody can use with, I think, any card. There are some restrictions, so it's only up to 1080p, which is a significant issue, as we'll maybe go on to talk about in a minute. But let's have a look how it performs. First off, let's just show you how it works. So Lossless Scaling is a Steam program. You want to turn scaling off, you want to turn frame generation on. I'm going to turn on the counter basically for showing the FPS in the top left-hand corner. You have to limit your monitor's refresh rate to whatever is double of what you're targeting. So we're going to target 30 FPS here. We're going to set the refresh rate to 60, and then we're going to use Riva Tuner to limit the frame rate to 30. So there are more steps here to go through than doing this with AMD's version. You then need to have it to be not full screen. So windowed or borderless works. You click on scale on the app, click back on the program you want to upscale or insert the frames onto, and here we go. You can see there that we are getting 60 FPS. For this testing, I've used a computer that's slightly above, very slightly above minimum spec maybe. It's got the i7-8700 in it, it's got 32 gigs of RAM, and it's got a 1660 Ti, which is a little bit better than the base 1660 that I recommend as the minimum spec GPU. But the bonus of this machine is that it can pretty close hit 30 all the way round Lorville, and that is going to be quite important, as we're going to see. First up, this is 30 FPS locked. You might be able to see if your eyes are very good. In the top right hand corner, we are basically locked at 30 FPS. Now that around this run of Lorville, there will be drops, but this is 30 FPS. Let's now have a look at frame generation. Now, immediately you might see it's a lot kind of smoother. It looks quite different, and there are some artifacting bits going on as we move the screen. Here is side by side. So on the left, we've got the fluid motion frames, and on the right, we've just got the standard 30 FPS. Now this part of the run is pretty locked to 30 FPS, therefore we're getting pretty solid 60 FPS for the frame generation. I think this scenario, it looks pretty good. Here again, we've got the two side by side, but I've halved the frame rate. Now this was captured at 120 FPS on the camera, frames on the camera, and now we're slowing down all sorts of craziness so that you can see this. We can see, I think it's smoother, significantly smoother on the left. You obviously can see the more juddering of the 30 frames, but as you see, as you turn this corner, there is some significant artifacting going on. If you look at the UI element in the bottom corner there, it very occasionally just kind of, shimmers, judders, moves around, and you can see that this technology is not perfect. Now, I think UI is always going to be a challenge for these sorts of things, but yeah, significant things going on that you probably wouldn't want to see, but it is significantly smoother. Here, though, is a section where we can't maintain the 30 FPS. Now, you can't exactly see it, but we are dropping below 30 FPS. You see 57 shown at the top, but the frames are much more juddery, and we're obviously duplicating frames that are juddering. So this is where I think it kind of falls down. Again, we're seeing significant artifacting of the UI. If you can't lock your frame rate, which really in Star Citizen nobody can, it really limits what you can do. And so alongside input lag concerns, because even though it looks like 60, it still feels like 30, there are some concerns here, and there are some reasons why this is probably only for a very select group of people with very strange hardware combination. This obviously only works at 1080p, and the only reason you could really want to use this, I think, would be if you had a quite high-end CPU, like let's say a 7800X3D, and a fairly low-end GPU. And if you can hit, say, 45 FPS everywhere, which you kind of can in Star Citizen with the 7800X3D, you in theory are then doubling up to 90 FPS. But the thing is, most people with a 7800 XGD probably have fairly decent GPU, and they're probably not playing at 1080p. They're probably playing at least 1440p, if not maybe something at 4K. So if you've got a older CPU or a less powerful CPU, you just can't really reliably use this technology because you can't keep a smooth frame rate and you can't lock to a certain number. As we saw there, when you drop below the 30 FPS target that we're trying to hit, it kind of just falls to pieces a bit. But also, we're hitting 30 FPS here in Lorville with this system, but if we went out into space, we'd probably be getting more than double that. So it's not like you can just hit a target in Star Citizen and say, well, this is what we're going to hit. You'd almost have to keep changing the target frame rate, and it just wouldn't really work that well. So if you've got lossless scaling, which you might have already bought it for the upscaling stuff that it could do in the past, I would give this a go. But I don't think this is really going to be a solution for most people. And I think, as painful as it is, we will have to just wait, however long we have to wait, for Star Citizen to get more stable, for the frame rate to be more steady, and then for CIG to implement some sort of frame generation natively.